When it comes to rent, location is king. But not all locations are created equal. And if you don't select your area correctly, you could find yourself bleeding cash with an empty property, desperately wondering, why? But here's the thing, it is simple when you know how. And I've got the formula that's helped over 1,000 people secure successful rent deals and build them positive cash flow every month rather than losing money and feeling like this stuff doesn't work. So in this video, I'm going to share it all. I'm going to give you a clear breakdown on how you can choose the perfect investment area for success. Yes, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This is the mecca of rent content, and I pride myself on giving the most amount of free rent knowledge anywhere on the internet. So you're in the right place. So let's talk about location, because here is the big idea. I want to really share this with you. You've got to be clear on one key thing before we even talk location, and that is your goal. All right. I spoke to a guy called Derek the other day, and Derek said to me, listen, Simon, I'm just concerned. Is it oversaturated? And I said to him, well, Derek, what's your goal? And Derek said to me, I'm not going to carry on with the accents, I just can't do it. Derek said to me, listen, Simon, I want to earn $5,000 a month, right? And I said, okay, and where are you based, Derek? And Derek says, I'm in Birmingham. And I said, okay, then, well, on average in Birmingham, if you choose the perfect type of property, you might expect, okay, to need approximately 4 properties, 1, 2, 3, 4, to hit your juicy 5K per month cash flow. So then I rephrased the question to him, and I said, do you think Birmingham, the second capital, can take 5 more service accommodation or HMO units or social housing units? And he was like, well, yeah, obviously. I was like, well, you're all good. So the first thing you guys need to do is you need to make sure that your goal is clear, and then you pick the location based on the goal, not the other way round. So if Derek would have said to me, listen, Simon, I want to create a 25 grand a month cash flow, and I live in the middle of nowhere, then surely his area would have to change in order to hit this goal. But in that case, he was good to go. So the first thing to ask yourself is, what's my big goal? And then make sure that when you're analyzing your area, you're doing it through that lens. Make sense? Let's move on. So now we've got a clear idea on the goal and what we're trying to achieve. The second concept I want to share with you is something I like to call the rent, and I technically should do that, radius. And the rent radius tells us that wherever possible, we should stay as close to home as possible. And the ideal radius, okay, is 5 miles from home. That is ideal. However, okay, if you live in the middle of nowhere and your goal is you need, like, let's say you need 10 properties. I'm not going to draw 10, I'll draw 4, and then we'll just do 6 more. Say, for example, you want 10 properties. Sometimes you will go on Rightmove. A lot of my mentees say this, but Simon, there's only 11 properties available in my whole radius. Okay, well, here's the thing. If that is the case, then it is fine to extend your area 20, maybe 30 miles, not much more than that, initially, so that you can hit your goal. But the main reason I recommend staying as close to home as possible at the beginning is if you've got a 9 to 5, if you've got kids, if you've got a life, it's going to be really hard for you to do 3, 4, 5 viewings a week if you've got to drive an hour or 2 hours away. Whereas in this example, you might be able to do a viewing on the way to the gym. You could do a viewing on the way back from the school run. You can do a viewing on the way back from work. So that is a key reason why I recommend staying as close to home as possible at the beginning. The other reason, which is really key, is it will be easier to set up the property and manage the property until your systems are dialed in. So once you're systemized, sure, you can expand that area. I've had scenarios where I'm managing properties 3 hours away from me, or I've had people in the community manage properties 5 hours away. But first things first, let's get the systems dialed in, and then it's going to be way easier to scale. So now we're really clear on the goal and the ideal rent to rent radius. The second thing is, okay, well, I know I can acquire the properties. Is there demand? In other words, supply and demand. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you will know in terms of demand, okay, rent to rent 2.0 is all about controlling assets. And then what you can do is you can cash flow them through serviced accommodation. You could cash flow it through HMO or house shares, or you could actually back to back cash flow the property through social housing or social living, which we've got more and more people in the community doing now, which can be really powerful because you can actually rent to rent for 5 years guaranteed rent. So if you've not got much time, great idea. But the key thing here is we want to make sure that we're opening our area to exploit as many of these opportunities as possible to get you to your goal. And I actually talk about this in great detail in the book. Page 63, chapter 4, we talk about doing your homework, and I actually list exactly where you should start looking for properties and how to optimize your area. So check out the book if you want more information on that. But for the purpose of this video, all right, I'm going to give you the main green flags for each three. First things first, the main green flag for SA, I tell you what, let's start a new page. So the biggest green flag for serviced accommodation is, can anybody guess? Can anybody guess? Can anybody guess? It is hotels. Out of all of the green flags or the guess magnets, my biggest driver and the biggest thing I've seen work is being as close to hotels as possible. So let's say, for example, you've got a big Hilton hotel. All I'm literally doing, guys, is I'm just trying to position my house as close to the Hilton as possible, because that basically means that when people find this, they're going to find me and I am away. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay, there are other guest magnets. I talk about it in the book, but if you've got that, I swear you are on to a winner. Let's move on to the green flag for HMO. So HMO, guys, is literally a property, okay, where instead of renting the whole property, maybe we split it into 6 different rooms. And rather than maybe getting £2,000 for the whole property, we can charge £750 per room, which generates more income. The biggest green flag for HMO properties that I've seen all the time is we want employment. Okay, so where I'm based, did you know that in Derby, the Midlands, we have the Rolls-Royce headquarters? So they've been a huge driver for me scaling the HMO side of my portfolio. Another cool one here, of course, is unis, okay? So if you've got unis in your area, that can be great too. But my favorite one of all is employment. So just to quickly recap, all right? You got your goal, you then establish your rent to rent radius and make sure that there's enough potential supply of houses. We then look to make sure that there is the demand. And in this case, if there's big employment in the area, if there's a university for HMO, I know we are away. Hope you're getting value from the video. If you're looking to get more rent to rent deals, okay, generate more money from the deals that you've got, or perhaps systemize your portfolio to free up your time so you're not giving yourself another day job, go ahead, hit the link below, book a call with me or my team, and let's see if we can help you on your way. Anyway, back to the video. And finally, in terms of green flags for social housing, I highly recommend focusing first on the providers, okay? If you can find a provider and then source the properties in that area, having known their requirements, knowing their rents, knowing what they can pay you, you will be laughing all the way to the bank. I speak to lots and lots of you who want to get involved in rent to rent. You desperately need help. And one of the biggest sort of fears that people have is interesting. Okay, everybody fears that it could be oversaturated now, and maybe the competition is just too hard to overcome. But this is the thing that you are missing, okay? Competition is actually good, okay? Whenever I see competition, I actually believe that is a benefit. And the reason for this is if I know that there is established demand, I'm no longer guessing. Because there's only so much we can do through sort of, just like doing a bit of this, guessing. What we need to use is precise market data. And the best way to use precise market data is, of course, for there to be a gold standard. If there is a gold standard and I know, hang on a minute, these properties are working, their occupancies are good, this is what they're charging, this is the level of the reviews, this is how they've done their property out, then I've got a blueprint. All I now need to do is I just need to follow the blueprint and then make it better. Okay? It's far easier to do something better than to create something brand new. So my advice is if there is competition, then that is a good thing. What we want to do is evaluate the market, maybe stay in a few properties and then just beat it. This, my friends, is a really, really good way of you sort of piggy banking on other people's strategies and just monetizing it. So don't be afraid of competition. Find out what's there, okay? Use the precise market data and then just make yours better. Simple as that. A lot of you don't know this. All right, it's not until you've built a large rent-to-rent business. My business, built it, 7 figures, really understood the figures, knew my figures at 10 deals, 20 deals, 40 deals, 50 deals. It's only when you've done that that you can really understand how rent-to-rent works on a business level. Now, the thing is with rent-to-rent is in an ideal scenario, you want to be rolling around 33% profit margin. Okay, this is super, super important because a lot of people, they build businesses and as they scale their business up and the revenue increases, their profits go down. And that's really, really, it's such an upsetting thing because you're working harder, the management's harder, the systems are harder, the operations are harder, the revenue is higher, but the profit goes down. And there's a model that I really, really love here, guys. And the model is basically, it looks a little bit like this. Okay, and what we have is okay, this here is loads of money. This is low. If I tell you what, let's do a couple more there. This is loads of money. This is not much money. And then what we have at the top here is this is really easy, okay? And this is really hard. And what happens, guys, you've got these 4 quarters. So in other words, guys, the top right-hand side is this is really easy to manage, really enjoyable, love my business, and I'm making loads of money. Down here is the money's poor, and it's really, really hard work. Up here in this quartet, okay, this is really easy, but the money's rubbish. And down here, this is really hard, but at least the money's good. Now, what's going to happen is the more deals you get, if you're not careful, you're going to see your gross profit margin drop to, 20, 15, maybe even 10%. Okay, and you are going to find yourself somewhere around here. Okay, and in our community, our job is how do we keep you, okay, how do we keep you in this area as you begin to scale? So what does this mean? Well, this means, guys, that when you are selecting deals, it's not just about the area, but it's also about the type of property and the profit margin. So what I like to do with all of my properties is I might look at a 2-bed, I might look at a 3-bed, I might look at a 4-bed, and I might look at a 5-bed. Guys, I can tell you this now, if you're doing service accommodation, 0 and 1 beds, unless you're doing a whole block, I would stay away from them. It's not worth your time. But then what we can actually do is we can look at the rent that we're going to be paying the landlord. we can then look at what we're going to be able to monetize from the property. And then once we've done that, we're actually going to be able to look at what the return on investment is. And then we can compare, so we can assess, actually, based on our mathematics, the best return on investment in my area is in fact this. All right? Really, really important. Final thing I would just touch on in terms of this is when I scale to around 20 units, I highly recommend you doing a league board, okay? It's like a football team. So what you want to do is you then want to actually have a monthly leaderboard of your properties, okay? And then what that's going to do is you're going to be able to basically rate the properties, and ultimately you may decide you need to ditch the properties that are performing less good and do more of this stuff.